The Angry Birds are a group of multidimensional avians throughout an entire multiverse who seem to always fall victim to the crimes of trespassing and child abduction executed by a mob of gluttonous pigs and their silly little antics. Though this has been known to be true, I'm here to tell you that this is a lie. This fairy tale that you've been told your entire lives is nothing but a fallacy. Government propaganda concocted in order to brainwash you into believing that these deviants are nothing but silly little geometrically shaped birds of which are innocent and justified in their crusade against the pig people, and that the piggies are cultists that sacrifice and eat literal children. Now I know what you're thinking. Scotty, buddy, you're delusional. No one's gonna believe your insane conspiracy. You probably think I'm off a crack pipe right now. And you're wrong. The entire tale of Angry Birds is a lie, and I'm going to prove it. The first thing we have to look at before I feed you my silly little delusions and what the voices in my head are saying, we have to delve deep into the lore, or what I'd like to call the deep state propaganda that you've been force-fed your entire life. It'd take me the entire video to explain the lore in depth, so I'm going to condense this as much as possible. So basically, the entire Angry Birds universe is comprised of several different worlds, and there's like 7 or 8 of them, one of which including the comics. Yeah, I know, apparently this silly little game about turning birds into slingshot fodder has like 4 issues of a really DC superhero-esque comic series, and each of these worlds are supposed to be canon amongst each other. Like Angry Birds Star Wars is also in the same universe as Angry Birds Space, which makes sense but also doesn't at the same time. They have Transformer Angry Birds. They got the mother flipping birds from Rio. Then there's the movies. Then there's this one spin-off of the pink Angry Bird named Stealth that I didn't even know existed until writing this script. There's also this like Chinese market game that may or may not be canon, I don't know. They got Angry Birds Space Invaders. They got Angry Birds if Mario and Luigi were very small, angry, winged animals. They have an entire game that's basically just a walking billboard for McDonald's. There's a game of them working with Chester the cheetah. But that kind of begs the question, how is Rovio netting all these collabs? Is this the government's way of infiltrating children's media and indoctrinating them in believing this narrative that the Angry Birds crew is indeed innocent? I'd think so. Looking back at all these collabs that the Angry Birds are in, they have McDonald's, they have Rio, they have Transformers, Star Wars, Chester the cheetah. Is it a coincidence that all these brands and franchises cater specifically to an elementary age audience? The answer is no. This is an intentional plan forged by the government and its agents in order to spread misinformation and indoctrinate the youth with lies and fallacies pertaining to the idea that the Angry Birds are sweet and innocent and that their little race war between them and the piggy kind is justified and not wrong at all, and to go as far as to even promote these antics by showcasing to these children how exactly the Angry Birds are executing their piggy genocide. But we're getting off track here. So, in short, what you've been led to believe your entire life is that the piggies engage in acts of soliciting and child abduction in which the Angry Birds retaliate and take back what is theirs. And now that all the government indoctrinating bullshit is out of the way, here's the totally legitimate truth that I definitely didn't make up in my head while writing this. I think we first need to ask ourselves this question. Why would the government choose these specific brands to collaborate and cover up what's really going on behind the scenes? Or better yet, how did Rovio obtain all these collaborations in the first place? What if I told you that Rovio is actually just a front for the government to conceal themselves behind? It makes sense. I mean, why would the government openly admit to forging propaganda in the form of innocent and fun collabs? To hide all the propaganda that they've made. They haven't done it before and they won't begin to do it now. I know it sounds a little crazy, but stay with me now. Who owns Rovio? Sega Group Corporation. Where is Sega's headquarters located? They're located in Tokyo, Japan. What happened back in World War II on the Pacific Front? We dropped the power of the sun on them twice, really putting the sun in the land of the rising sun. How long was America in occupation of Japan after they surrendered? For 7 years. I don't know about you, but 7 years is quite a long time for some backdoor deals to be happening. And I'm willing to bet that FDR made some absolutely shady under-the-table deals of the remains of what was once the Japanese Empire in order to make this absolute 5D chess move of obtaining Sega 20 years before it even existed in order to obtain the rights to Rovio for even longer than that. I'm not even surprised considering FDR's affiliation with the Freemasons, but that's a story for another time. Back to the topic at hand, Rovio is now a front for the government to use as a smokescreen for their propaganda operation. But now the question is why? Why has the government, or Rovio, decided to utilize these specific brands in order to aid them with the dealings of propaganda? Well, think about it for a second. What do all of these brands have in common? You guessed it, they all cater to a child audience. Woo! Yeah, baby! Child indoctrination. I love spreading misinformation to the adolescent. See, children are kind of stupid, and since children are force-fed the idea of brand loyalty at such a young age, why wouldn't they play Angry Birds even after their beloved mascot Chester the Cheetah is showcased in one of their games? And it doesn't stop there. Instead of asking how Rovio obtained all these collab deals, maybe we should be asking why. Why would all these name brands agree to this? One would suggest that they were seeking to advertise their brands more and expand their influence among the adolescent. And while that's not the worst guess in the world, that's just incorrect. If you guys have any knowledge at all about basic economics, then you'd understand that brands like Cheetos and McDonald's aren't their own individual companies, but they both answer to a higher power. No, not the Illuminati, but something equally as shady. I'm talking groups like Vanguard, Berkshire Hathaway, BlackRock. These are the higher powers that brands like Cheetos answers to. And while they aren't necessarily owned by them, they do own the most shares within the companies that own these brands. Like how Vanguard owns 131 million shares of a company called PepsiCo that owns a subsidiary called Frito-Lay's that owns the brand Cheetos and also owns 69 million shares of McDonald's. Or you could look at Berkshire Hathaway that owns 400 million shares of Coke. Wow. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of money, and you know what they say, money talks. Which brings me to the conclusion that companies like Vanguard and Berkshire Hathaway are in a secret backdoor deal with the government by putting the brands owned by these companies in the game in exchange for a massive payout. Which leads me to believe that there's something more to this whole sham than meets the eye. So basically, the government bought Sega after defeating the Japanese in World War II to then later create their smokescreen known as Rovio in order to conceal their propaganda operation that is also funded and supported by big money giants like Vanguard and Warren Buffett. It sounds a little far-fetched, but my source? You don't need to know. It's a secret. And if you ask any more questions, I'm gonna have to kill you. Now that I've regurgitated all the silly delusional thoughts in my head, here's the real story of what really happened. June 15th, 1859, the Pig War. To those who know about the Pig War have been led to believe that basically the incident was just a mere territorial dispute between Great Britain and colonial America over a silly little group of islands northwest of Washington state, which escalated to an astounding level because someone put down this pig like Old Yeller for eating plants. This is somewhat true, but not entirely. See, it was no mere man that shot this pig, but it was none other than the Mighty Eagle himself. The Mighty Eagle, by the way, is basically this godlike deity among the Angry Birds community that they practically worship, I guess, which baffles me because, well, yeah. And who did the Mighty Eagle kill? He killed Leonard Mudbeard, who was at the time monarch of the Piggy Kingdom. Yes, this is true. Disregard any other time you see him throughout the entire franchise. It's just the government psyop. Nice try, feds. I'm still not paying my taxes. Why did the Mighty Eagle kill King Leonard Mudbeard? Well, remember that entire rambling I went on earlier about FDR buying Sega during World War II? That sounds a little bit too far-fetched, but trust me, it isn't. Yeah, so the entire Angry Birds cast are basically secret government agents doing the bidding of the elites. This is why I also said that Rovio is just a front for the government to do their secret propaganda operation. It makes perfect sense to have the entire Angry Birds cast hide behind a smokescreen of a so-called gaming company in order to hide their shady doings, like killing Leonard Mudbeard. You see, this same couple of incidents happened throughout history. Ever heard of the Emu War? That war isn't what you think it was about. Another government lie to hide the truth of what's really going on. The Emu War was actually a direct response from the Piggy Kingdom for the unjust slaughter of their former monarch, King Leonard Mudbeard. The popular belief is that the Australian government waged war against basically an entire species of bird because they were massacring their entire agricultural market. That's another sham, basically. Ever heard of the Bay of Pigs? Yeah, it was literally a Bay of Pigs, a direct retaliation funded by the government to have the birds disguise themselves as the pigs and to destroy nearby local villages on the island of Cuba, to give the Piggy Kingdom a bad look on the world stage. Ladies and gentlemen, there was no Cuban Missile Crisis. Wake up, sheeple. Only corrupt government dealings in order to gain control over the masses. The entire Cold War was just a government front to hide the fact that an entire secret war between a kingdom of pigs and the government itself was occurring. You people have been lied to your entire lives, but now the truth is finally out. The entire franchise of Angry Birds is a complete and utter sham. used to control you into believing that these deviant birds are the victims of chaos by the pigs, who are in truth the real victims of this government corruption. And just remember, guys, that I'm a very, very happy human being, and I would never, under any circumstance, take my own life.